Welcome to Sheriff's Talk, brought to you by the Missouri Sheriff's Association. During this episode and ones that follow, we'll be talking with sheriffs from across the state regarding topics relating to county law enforcement and jails. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. Today we're thrilled to feature our sponsor, HomeWave, a trailblazer in inmate communication technology for correctional facilities. Based in St. Louis, Missouri, HomeWave's patented platform meets industry demands driven by integrity, innovation, and impact. Stay tuned for more later in our podcast on HomeWave's mission to revolutionize communications. And now, here's the host of our show, Sam Boyd.
Hey, welcome to Sheriff's Talk. This is the first episode. I'm here with Kevin Merritt. I'm Sam Boyd, your host. And Kevin Merritt is the Missouri Sheriff's Association Director. How you doing, Kevin?
Doing fine. Thanks for having me here today.
All right. So what does the Missouri Sheriff's Association Director do?
A little bit of everything. First of all, we often go by the initials MSA, which stands for Missouri Sheriff's Association. So if you hear me say MSA, then that's what I'm referring to.
That probably helps so people can, what's MSA?
Yeah, we kind of like shortening it up like that because it just doesn't roll off the tongue very well. Missouri Sheriff's Association.
I think law enforcement in general likes acronyms and shortening things up.
Yeah, yes, they do. Not as much as the federal system in the military, but some of those have acronyms within acronyms, and that's just that's out there.
Yeah. So how does Missouri Sheriff's Association help out sheriffs in their daily duties and then all the way down through the agency as well as the citizens of the state?
One of the things we do is we provide technical assistance to the sheriffs in their office. And what that entails is if they have minor procedural questions, operational questions, then they can reach out to me here at the Sheriff's Association, the MSA, and we'll find information on what the law says relating whatever their topic is. Sometimes we'll look at what best practices are and offer guidance just shy of legal advice because we're not licensed attorney and I don't give legal advice, but we operational information and pointing them to the statutes concerning whatever particular topic or issue that they're asking about. And if it does need to be a legal advice from an attorney, then we have an attorney on staff that will provide minor type legal advice through his office, and sheriffs can retain him if they want to retain him as counsel to represent them in something.
Do you ever help the president out, the board president, by going to the Capitol with legislation? Do you help do that?
Yes, that's something that I do as executive director. It's very important that I work well with the president and closely with the president on issues concerning the office of sheriff and keeping local control over the office of sheriff and looking out for the best interests of the citizens. So he and I spend a lot of time with our lobbyist, watching legislation that's going on in the Capitol, attending meetings with the various task force and focus groups that have been put together to address issues across the state that affect local safety, local public safety, and may affect the constitutional rights of the citizens.
So other than law enforcement related topics, what else do you really talk about or help the citizens out with and keep an eye on with the board president, with the legislation?
Some of the things that we watch for as well as law enforcement related issues that directly affect what we do as law enforcement and public safety is sometimes there may be a bill that's introduced that will potentially have an effect on a constitutional right of a member of the community. And that right's not necessarily related to law enforcement or criminal activity or detention. And we also look out and watch for that, and we'll talk to sponsors of the bills and just make sure that we're not doing anything that's infringing on the rights of the citizens.
Okay. So if anybody wanted to learn more about MSA, where could they go to find out more information on Missouri Sheriff's Association?
First place I'd direct them to would be our Facebook at mosheriffs.com. And we also have our website. We have a great marketing team that keeps up with our website, keeps up with our Facebook. So not only the Facebook at mosheriffs.com, but our website at mosheriffs.com.
Okay. So you mentioned great employees. So who are some of your employees and what do they do?
We have Donna Arney. She is our longest serving employee. She's been with the MSA for over 30 years now. She takes care of keeping the books, helping out with academy applications. And I hadn't even mentioned anything about what we do with our academy as well. So maybe we can get to that in a little bit. It just kind of popped in my mind. So in addition to that, she takes care of keeping me in line and helping me as I need it. We have Gina Kaufman. She's our second longest employee. Kind of an interesting tidbit of information. She came to the MSA directly out of high school, and we've enjoyed having her ever since she's been here. We have Jeannie Merritt is our marketing director, and I tell you, she's a go-getter. She just she could sell ice cubes to Eskimos, and we really appreciate what she does. And then we have some individuals that contract with us to do other things, like Hill Design Company. Stacy Marshall, that's our designer, and she runs her company. And we have Nancy Hoagland that does a lot of writing for our magazine and takes care of our Facebook. So it'd be very difficult to do what we do here at the association if we didn't have such a great staff.
Yep. And I'm sure they don't just have that title and do that job. I'm sure they're running around doing everything that needs to be done and get ready for conferences, stuff like that.
Yes, pretty much everyone here at the MSA does the job of two people.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to come up with like a job description and primary responsibilities and secondary responsibilities, because we could end up doing anything at any time that's needed, from somebody on staff replacing light bulbs to taking a vehicle to get service. I mean, if it's almost like, hey, you doing something? No, we'll come here and get this done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, when jails or sheriff's departments are short, that's probably the same case. It goes on when you're short. You just got to step in there and do what needs to be done to get the mission accomplished.
Yeah, and we are definitely feeling the stress of that, because back around 2005, 2004, we had 10 people on staff, and now we have 4 on staff.
Yeah,
and that's through attrition, and cutbacks, and times getting tough, and we are doing more now with just 4 full-time staff members than we ever did, because it's important that we provide good service to our clients, and our clients are the sheriffs and their staff.
You want to talk about a little bit how you can become a member of MSA?
Sure. We have a membership campaign going on through Facebook now. So if you check out our Facebook page, there's a membership ad on there, and click to join. You can go to our website, mosheriffs.com, and click on membership, and there's a place to join there. The honorary membership is $35 a year. And with that, you get a decal for your vehicle, and you can order additional decals if you want to put decals on more than one vehicle. You get a subscription to our 2 publications. 2 times a year, we publish what's called the Missouri Sheriff. That's a magazine highlighting what's going on in the sheriff's offices locally, things that they deal with on a daily basis. It also includes information about employees within their organizations who are doing great things and kind of going above and beyond. And it also covers information about some things that might be going on with legislation around the Capitol, or bail reform, or, justice and sentencing, just a wealth of information that's going on around the county. And we also have our Missouri Jails magazine, and that highlights what's going on in the jails around the state, and sort of mirrors the Missouri Sheriff, where employees are going above and beyond and getting recognition in that. So not only do you get the decals, you get a subscription to those 2 magazines as well.
I'm sorry. And there's that money just goes right back into MSA to help do all these things we've talked about. It kind of helps fund it. Am I correct with?
Yes. Well, one of our revenue sources is membership, and we call it membership. It's actually kind of like considered a donation, fundraising. We rely on the members of the community to help support us financially, so that we can support the sheriffs technically, and also through training. And we have a scholarship fund where employees of the sheriff's office's children can apply for a scholarship fund, or a scholarship, I should say. If they're going to college, there's an application process. They apply for it, and they kind of write an essay on why they should get a scholarship and where they're going to go. And this last calendar year, we gave out over $4,000 in scholarships for that purpose. We also have a benevolent fund. And we hope we never have to use that. That is for sheriffs and sheriff's office personnel who have lost their life in the line of duty. And a few years ago, we gave out $5,000 to the family of Andy Clark, who lost his life in the line of duty. And as I said, I hope we never have to use that, but we continue to build that fund as well through membership and donations. And we have seen tremendous support for our benevolent fund and giving to that benevolent fund.
That's great news. Is there anything else you want to talk about today before we go to break?
I'd like to mention, we haven't talked about what we do from law enforcement education side
Okay.
there.
So you're talking about training and stuff like that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, training. We are one of approximately 9 organizations that are licensed by the state of Missouri to provide basic peace officer training, sort of like the academy cops type program. And we've been doing that since we were incorporated in 1945. And unlike some of the other brick and mortar places, we do them at 6 different regional locations across the state, because it's really important to us that the men and women who want to pursue a career in law enforcement, but yet they have family responsibilities, work responsibilities, they can still go to the academy training and live and work and raise their family in the community where they are. So we're one of the only ones that run a part-time academy.
How many hours do you have to be post-certified?
600 hours is what the statute requires, and we're running about 770 hours now. So
Okay.
we're
So-
going above and beyond what the state mandates for that. And we have, it's kind of an interesting note, because I'm a numbers geek and I like, spreadsheets, and I'm not quite into pie charts, but I like spreadsheets and numbers, that kind of stuff. Maybe I'll get to pie charts someday, but there are those who hope I won't. But, I keep numbers on, where we're going and where we've been. And, therefore, for 4 years running, we were the highest producing academy in the state, graduating the largest number of newly licensed peace officers. And in the last couple of years, we've fallen to just maintaining the top 3 or 4 of that, beaten out only by the bigger academies like the St. Louis and Kansas City Academy. And my friend John Warden up at Columbia and LETI, they beat us out every now and then. So we kind of have a little riff going, not a riff, but just a little jab at each other back there. I'm going to beat you next year and that kind of stuff. just all fun and games,
Yeah.
with that. Well, we've been averaging over 4,500 law enforcement officers trained each year in service training, what they call the continuing education. Officers by DPS requirements have to have 48 hours of training each year, and we help maintain that.
The CEUs, is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? How do you do that? What's the means of how you get your training out there to the deputies and jail staff?
We offer a number of different venues. We still believe in the service of classroom-based training, where people get together in a classroom and they sit there, and that's led by an instructor. So, instructor-led in-person classroom training. We've identified 15, 16 different places across the state where we schedule those trainings, where personnel can come there to that classroom and attend the training. We offer, through our learning management system, we offer online classes. So officers can take self-led training at their own convenience. So if they have some downtime, they can log in and take an online class as well. We have a system where we offer webinars as well. And that's been very popular as well. We kind of try to keep our webinar training down to no more than 2 hours. We try to keep our online classes down to no more than 2 hours, but every now and then we'll have a 3-hour class, just because of the seriousness of the topic and the material to be covered. But we try to hit the gamut of in-service, face-to-face, online self-paced learning, and webinar training as well. Kind of an interesting note. We just finished up our fiscal year for this past year in 2023, and we currently have over 12,000 users in our online system, and we had over 68,000 course registrations in our online system, and gave out well over 65,000 hours of continuing education credit.
That sounds pretty. Let's talk specifically about jails. So jail officers don't necessarily need to be certified, but what has MSA done to help out jail officers get training?
One of the projects that we're really proud of, we were able to put in place in 2023, was a jail academy. And a little bit of history on that. Back in 2010-ish, the state of Missouri was looking at, by statute, mandating a minimum amount of training for correctional officers, those working in the prisons. And that's another thing that our association helped out with is we know, and those who have worked in the jails know, that it's almost apples and oranges for what goes on in the prisons and what the requirements are for jails. And jails are usually more pretrial. Nobody's been convicted. They're waiting for their case to be adjudicated, and there's different rules that apply and statutes that apply than those who apply to the prisons.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2010, I believe it was, when they were working on that, the legislators were working on it, we convinced them to exempt local jails and city lockups and holding facilities from that. And they agreed, but the caveat was that we come up with some training and we train jail personnel. So we put together a 120-hour jail officer program back in 2010, and as we've tweaked that over the years, we found it difficult for jail staff to get away for 3 weeks.
Right.
So we had to continue to revise that, and now we've updated it and launched a new 48-hour academy program that's going to be followed by a second phase and a third phase on that. We also provide a number of our online classes and webinars are geared towards jail issues, because our men and women that work in the jails are often forgot. I mean, there's one thing that's quite commonly known is not only does it seem to be like the inmates in the jail are out of mind, out of sight kind of thing, but then so are the men and women that work the jail and are charged with the responsibility of supervising and keeping people in the jail safe and getting them to court. So we're really trying to raise awareness that jail staff should not be out of sight, out of mind.
That sounds good. And I appreciate what the MSA is doing for all sheriffs and the citizens around the state. So we started this podcast. This is our first one. Why are we doing this? What was the reason? What's the purpose? And what were you hoping to accomplish with doing a podcast?
Getting information out there to the community members about what it means to be a sheriff, what the sheriff does, what the sheriff's office does, what the men and women in the sheriff's office does. We're in an election year where sheriffs are running to be reelected, and sometimes you'll see members of the community that just don't know what a sheriff does. A lot of people that live in the city, if they have an issue and they need help or something, the city police officer would come and help them out, and that may be the only law enforcement contact they have, and they know nothing about the sheriff. But the thing to remember is the city is within the county, and the sheriff does a lot of work in the city that people just don't realize. Things such as you're a landlord and you have a renter that's behind on rent and you need to get them out. Well, the sheriff is going to take care of that. If you are in a situation where there might be domestic violence and protective orders that are in place, it's the sheriff that comes into the city and does that as well, not only in the city but in the county. And if you have mental health problems or substance abuse problems with family members or friends and you live within the city, that's not the city police department that's going to do that. That's the sheriff. The sheriff is a servant of the court. And with that comes a lot of issues and things that face local law enforcement at the county level that we want to get out to the community and just share as much information as we can as to why the office of sheriff is such an important aspect of community public safety.
All right. Well, Kevin, thanks for being on the show. And right now what we're going to do is take a break for our sponsors. And I would like to say that Sheriff Brad Cole from Christian County will be following Kevin Merritt. All right, Kevin, thank you very much. We'll break for our sponsors.
HomeWave's all-in-one platform not only reduces inmate violence, but also enhances officer safety, streamlines jail operations, and improves communication between inmates and their loved ones. Their commitment to transparency, exceptional service, and innovative educational resources sets them apart, fostering positive change and preparing inmates for successful post-release lives.
All right, welcome back from break. I'm here with Sheriff Brad Cole from Christian County, who also serves as the Missouri Sheriff's Association Board President. Welcome to the show, Sheriff.
Glad to be here.
How are you doing?
It's a great day to be here. It's about 0 degrees outside and freezing, so I can't think of a better place to be than in the heat.
It's a little cooler in this room than it is others, but yeah, it's nice in here. So, reason we're here today is just to answer some questions about Christian County and tell your story from Christian County, and then talk about the position of the board president. Does that sound like
Sounds
something?
great.
All right. So let's start by asking you, how big is Christian County? Like the voter population, square mileage?
So Christian County is about 600 square miles. We serve a population of nearing about 100,000 people now. As you can expect from a county that size, we have a lot of rural area, but we also have a lot of urban area as well. So we have the complexity of both.
Okay. So how big is your agency?
So we have about 150 employees at the sheriff's office. Of that, about 100 sworn commissioned deputies who serve in many different capacities.
Okay. How big is your jail?
So we have a 96-bed jail, which doesn't sound very big for the size of county we are, but that's because it isn't. It was built about 23 years ago, and with no forethought or a look ahead of the growth in population of the county. So we have a 96-bed facility. On average, we have about 140 inmates per day.
You looking to build a new one?
That would be absolutely amazing to get to that point. The problem is money.
I bet you that's the case in a lot of counties around the state.
You know, I think it is, and we're no different than most people. We don't like new taxes, but to get a project of that magnitude, and we've been looking at about a $35 million project. It takes a lot of tax money, and it would take a tax increase, and nobody wants new taxes. So
Yeah. Do you house feds?
we do. We house for the U.S. Marshal Service.
That's a pretty good little check comes in from them. Helps out the taxpayers not having to pay for so much stuff.
Well, it makes up about 10% of the sheriff's office budget in revenue each year, so it's huge.
Yeah. So let's talk about the position of the board president. What's a board president do? How do you become a board president?
Well, it's a progression of through time of different positions, but first and foremost, it's elected by the other sheriffs. You become nominated for sergeant at arms. That's the first place in line on the board, and then you just work your way up through the ranks of the board, and ultimately, it's a confirmation of the other sheriffs throughout the state.
If I'm correct, I think you just entered the office back in October or August, September timeframe.
Yeah, into August of last year.
Okay. I think they did that at the conference. They bring you in and announce your presidency. And is that how that works?
Yeah, so every August at the summer conference is when the board changes, and that's when I was sworn in and installed as president.
And generally that's a 1-year term.
It is a 1-year term, yes.
And I've heard that some sheriffs sometimes get extended a little bit.
You know, depending upon what's going on, what's happening, if there's a sheriff that's retiring that's on the board, somebody may serve longer than a year.
Okay. What's the board president do throughout his tenure?
Well, I'm not sure that we have time to encapsulate all that goes on, but
It's busy.
you know, obviously we head up the meetings, the board meetings. I can tell you that I've spent in the last few months, I've spent a lot of time on legislation. I've been to the Capitol multiple times in the last few weeks. It is kind of a lot of support roles is what it is for many different aspects of the Sheriff's Association.
So how does that help, one, your deputies, what you do with legislation? And I'm sure it's kind of law enforcement related legislation mostly. And then how does that help out the citizens of your county or any county in the state?
Well, you know, what goes on at the Capitol affects everybody in the state. You have good legislation, you have bad legislation. We as sheriffs want to get behind and support that good legislation that's going to be beneficial to the citizens that we serve in our communities. But on the other hand, we want to get out in front of bad legislation that's going to have a negative effect on our communities and our state, and make sure that we put our voices out there and protect the citizens and our communities against bad legislation.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all we were going to talk about today. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we could take off the air?
You know, since we're talking about legislation, there's a couple of priority legislation movements that we have this year. And, you know, we're going to be, as sheriffs, we're going to be trying to educate our citizens of that legislation and get support for that. And, as a citizen, if you're watching, know that there's some important things on the list this year, and we're going to need some support.
And that comes up on the ballots whenever those decide to.
The legislation that we're looking at this year is related to a constitutional sheriff movement. It basically, the office of sheriff right now is authorized by state statute, which means that at the stroke of a pen from legislators and the governor, the sheriff's office could be abolished. We want to make sure that we solidify that by having that ratified in the Constitution, that the sheriff is a constitutional position and can't be taken away. So that's one important aspect that we're looking at this year, and we'll need support because it will be on the ballot if it gets to that point.
Okay. Well, anything else you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, that's going to end our show. I'd like to thank HomeWave for sponsoring the show, and I'd like to also thank Kevin Merritt for being on the show. If you want to get in on this show, you can watch it on YouTube, Facebook, or links that people send you or whatever, but we appreciate your support and we appreciate you watching. Thank you very much.
Big thanks to HomeWave, our dedicated sponsor. As a premier platinum partner with the Missouri Sheriff's Association, HomeWave leads in Missouri, serving 19 correctional facilities. Their support for law enforcement and commitment to safety and communication make them an invaluable MSA partner. Explore more at homewave.com/corrections and follow them on LinkedIn.
This is Sam Boyd, the host of Sheriff's Talk. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for watching our show. If you like this show and want to watch more, and we hope you do, please hit the follow, like, and/or subscribe buttons. Feel free to leave a comment. If you'd like to find out more about MSA or become an MSA member, please visit our website, mosesheriffs.com, and click Become a Member. Thanks again for watching the show, and we appreciate your support.